Welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 122. Today's episode, we want to talk about creativity and how we can help you learn to improve your creativity. Hi, my name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is Lee Beem.
And we're here to help you find your inner motivation, take better photos, and amaze your viewers. And to do that, we kind of really want to help you improve your creativity. But before we start talking about that, I want to let you know that show notes are going to be available at williambeem.com/episode 122. And you'll find links to subscribe to the show there, but also you can find our player at photoflunky.com in case you want to listen to some of our older episodes. Because, you know, some of those are clearly classics.
Absolutely. If you missed them, you're missing out.
That's so true. We're talking about learning to improve your creativity, and let's start off with just the basic question. And this is also a stupid question, but why do photographers need to be creative? I mean, so many photographers concentrate on the technical aspects of photography. You don't get that much talk about being creative as a photographer.
If you want your photos to be pretty, you got to be creative. Pretty isn't technical.
But doesn't everybody give you like a recipe on how to take, you know, pretty photos? So it's like they tell you, use the rule of thirds, use, you know, contrasting or complementary colors and stuff like that. It's almost like everything is a formula driven for photography. At least most of the training seems to go that way.
It is. And you know, those things can be helpful, but they shouldn't be necessary. Using those things and over applying them or living by them in everything you do is actually what ultimately kills creativity completely. Not just mostly or a little bit, but completely. It will just strip everything out of you.
I think a lot of people that get into photography, and I've heard this from people who do photography training, is they get a lot of IT people, they get a lot of doctors, they get a lot of people who are in very intelligent fields, but highly technical fields. And for some reason, that attracts people to photography. I know I was attracted to photography in high school, and I got into IT, and I've always been kind of drawn to, whether I was doing programming or other IT things, I like logical stuff. And that's kind of what I applied in photography for a long time.
And you will get a technically perfectly correct photo if you apply all those things. But
and
you know
it just won't be interesting.
Exactly. If you want an interesting photo, you got to break those rules.
For those of us who got into this because we're technically minded and we want to take beautiful photos, what happened to our creativity?
We lost it during life. Some people don't, but I think most people do to a certain extent, and some people almost entirely lose it. And it's what we're exposed to and the guidelines that are applied. It's what we're taught when we're young, before we're even aware of it and before we have a choice. You
know what I think is funny is when people are talking about those who do photography or those who do video, capturing something, they call us creatives. And I almost kind of smirk at that label a little bit, because I know a lot of people that do this, some who are extremely creative and some who are struggling to find their creativity.
And most of them are in the middle ground where they're neither, not within what they're putting out.
And I looked at this and I thought, you know, what happened to my creativity? Because I thought back, as a child, I was creative. I used to draw all the time. Now, I was not talented. Talent is another subject, and we've got a show on that, episode 107. So do you need talent to become a great photographer? And you can go to williambeem.com/episode 107 to hear what that. I said then, and I'll probably say now, I don't have a talented bone in my body, but I learned how to overcome that. And it doesn't mean that you cannot take beautiful, wonderful photos if you're not innately talented. I mean, as an artist, both you and Tove, you draw lovely things or you paint lovely things. And I've said before, I can't draw a stick. That's talent.
Yeah.
Some people can sing, other people just can't or shouldn't. But that doesn't mean that you're not creative.
Yeah. Now, look, I'll use Tove as an example. She has both. I grew up in a family where both sides of my family are extremely creative. They're into the musical aspects and the arts, and that is just, you know.
Your dad just picked up guitar and plays without lessons.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, Tove just picked up piano and took off with it. She played guitar. She plays the flute. She's also incredibly talented when it comes to art. But she could have had that talent, and if I didn't let her roll free with it, I don't know that it would have been what it is today. And this is not, a thumbs up to me or anything, but I think it's just really an awareness. Tove was drawing like a person with a head, you know, how the arms and legs come right out of the head and everything. She was drawing and writing her name before she could speak. She was 13 months old. We used to lay on the floor and with crayons and things, and I used to just let her draw. And I used to draw things and watch to see if she copied. Instinctively, you want to show kids what to do. Maybe they draw a tree and they put the trunk on the side and it's not in the right place. I never corrected her. I showed her my tree because they will figure out how things go and how to put them together. But
well, I want to draw the distinction between talent and creativity. Talent is having an innate ability to know how to do something or to make it happen. Creativity is what you do with those skills or abilities. And some people are more creative than others. I mean, you can see some drawings that are extremely creative, almost frighteningly so, that things that I would have never imagined in order to put down, on paper or canvas.
Why would you have never imagined them?
Because
they break the rules.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to get to is like as a child, I used to draw all the time. And my influence at that time was I grew up around, my father worked, with a defense company in Department of Defense. I grew up around a lot of military people. And so I used to draw like battle scenes all over the time. I had Jeeps and people with machine guns and, all the little stuff that little boys idolized at the age, when I was growing up. I was still doing it. I wasn't talented, but I had imagination of what these scenes would look like. And a lot of that was taken away from me. As a boy at that very, very young age when you're, playing with crayons or markers or whatever, you just kind of draw what you see. The television was filled with World War II movies. But after a while, someone tells you, well, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
And that's what starts killing your creativity. You're born creative as a child, whether you're talented or not. My cousin, who was about the same age as I am, maybe a year younger, when we would go, both be given a piece of paper and some crayons to draw, I would draw something. He would just take those crayons and scribble all over the place. And I looked at that and I thought, what are you doing? You're wasting my crayons. Was he being creative? Or was he being free? Or was he just, stupid?
He was probably just not interested. If he really was enjoying doing that with the crayons at the time, and I don't know, and he was making those patterns, then I'd say he was being creative. The chances are, though, a lot of the time with stuff like that, he just wasn't interested. And that's okay. Not everybody, you don't have to draw to be creative. But
now let's face it, a little baby that's got crayons and writes on the wall, well, not a baby, but toddler, they're being creative, but they get scolded and they're told, no, don't do this.
Yeah.
Because and understandably so, you don't want your walls, scribbled on by a child. As you get into school, they start taking the creativity out of you and start telling you, this is how you live your life.
Yep.
I got the feeling that I was not a creative person because every time I tried to do something that I thought was creative, or at least, just my emotions would take me there, I was told, no, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that.
But we do this with photography and many other things as well. But like on the topic of photography, all these books and things that you read where they're teaching you the technical aspects, honestly, it's not really that helpful to learn how to balance and put your composition together. That's something you figure out what is right and what is wrong. I think if it's not something that you feel and learn, you can have all the rules in the world. It's not going to create a creative photo unless you're specifically after a very technically correct photo for whatever you're doing, which is, let's face it, most of us photographers are not into that. It's not helpful. The technical aspects that help is learning how the exposure triangle works so you understand how it works. I don't think you should be a slave to it unless you don't care about being creative. Know how your camera works. Those are all technical things, and you need to know how to operate the tools that you're using. That is the extent of it as far as I'm concerned.
But look at the things we're taught as photographers. Your eye goes to the brightest thing. So you light someone's face and you want the rest of the thing a little bit darker, like you vignette the edges or something, so you can draw the eye to the center. But you don't want your photo in the center because it's got to be along the line of the rule of thirds. So you move it off to the left or the right or up or down, something along those lines.
I have never, ever in my life taken a photo and even thought about the rule of thirds.
I mean, cameras even include a little grid so you can see the rule of thirds.
Yeah, mine is turned off. It's distracting.
Well, it takes your creativity away because it's implying a rule upon you.
Well, it's telling me where I should put my stuff, and that doesn't work with where I want to put my stuff.
A lot of people really appreciate these tips. Your eye goes to the brightest thing, and then after that, it goes to the sharpest thing. So you know that, yeah, people are going to look at something that's sharp rather than something that's fuzzy. And they're also going to look at something that's brighter rather than darker. So that's why you have people like portraits, where the background is defocused and it's got that, bokeh. And, the face is brighter and the background's a little darker, and it just pulls you right in. Is that creative, or is that just you're doing what you were told? So you're replicating, like almost like you're in a factory?
Well, I think it depends on how you apply it. Having that knowledge as a tip is helpful. That is not going to destroy your creativity. When you are setting up and you keep wondering where the brightest spot is and where the light is and what's happening with every single photo, you become a slave to the rules. When you're a slave to the rules, you have no room to be creative. You got to break the rules a little bit if you want to be creative. And I'm not saying go and defy everything that you're told to do for the sake of it. I mean, it's got to be done with purpose. But if you see something and that's the way it looks good to you, or that is how you want to capture the situation, do it.
This is one of the things that I know you've said a number of times, and I'm wondering, how can you teach somebody? You said you feel your way through the photo. Can you teach that to somebody?
Not the way most people want to be taught, because most people want a recipe, they want to apply it, and they want to have instant success once they've applied the full recipe. It doesn't work like that. And this is all just my opinion, but I really do believe that you can learn to enhance those skills, but that's something that you develop through practice, through doing things, and not through your successes, but through your failures, and then going and evaluating what went wrong.
And that's really what I want to talk about next is, like, how do I get my creative juices flowing again? And the first thing that came to mind for me was to stop worrying about what other people think.
Yeah, that's a perfect place to start.
And if you go back and look at art through the years, some of the people that we really admire today were reviled in their time for coming out with something different, and it was not the standard.
Yeah.
I mean, look at back at, remember that movie Mozart?
Yes.
Or Amadeus about, Mozart.
Yeah.
And at the time, he was brilliant. He could do anything he wanted. But people were looking at him and says, "You're just doing it all wrong." He said, "Why? That's not the way we do it. There are too many notes."
And when somebody says that's not the way we do it, it means that they cannot explain why it's wrong. It's just because, in other words, they don't know why they're doing what they're doing.
They're doing what they were taught.
I do things, and I will tell you, I don't have to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing it because that's how I want to do it.
And I think that's the other one. When I say stop worrying about what other people think, you need to be kind of unafraid of stepping out and doing something because you want to. And on top of that, don't be afraid of failure. You may put something together and think, all right, I'm going to give this a try. And you go out and said, you know what, that just didn't work.
Yep. And I've done a lot of those.
And so what?
Yeah.
We learn more from failure than we do from success.
You really do, as long as you're willing to learn from it.
And if you go to a photography workshop, I think that is a wonderful place to fail, because then you've got people there who can give you their input and thoughts on things. And I know a lot of people go to photography workshops. They think they're going to build their portfolio and they're going to come away with these beautiful, wonderful photos. That is the last thing on my mind, because in my portfolio, I do not want to include photographs of something that somebody else set up, where somebody else hired the model, someone else put the scene together, and I just went up there and said, click, and then said, oh, here's my portfolio. No, I didn't create that shot. It wasn't really my imagination. That was provided for me. Yeah, maybe I directed the model. Maybe I did, something here or there, but that's not really a portfolio worthy shot. But if I go there and I experiment, and then I get feedback from the instructor or my other classmates, I can find out, did I come up with something that nobody else thought of? And is it acceptable? Or did I just really screw the pooch on the shot? And I've had both happen at workshops.
Yeah. But that leads me into the next thing. If you just touching back on what we said about the people, all the creative and artistic greats in various different fields of creativity, everybody looks at their work now and says, wow, they made such an impact. They made an impact because they made a change in the way people saw things. And they made that impact through change because they didn't do what everybody else was doing. Bottom line is, you've got to be prepared not to fit into the box if you want to stand out.
Yeah.
And that is not a comfortable place unless you really genuinely do not care what other people think. And you can train yourself to stop worrying about it. I think you're the point where you overcome that is when you realize that other people aren't better than you.
Well, this is what it really comes down to is, are you shooting for your own artistic vision and creativity, or are you shooting to get the approval of others around you? If you want the approval of others around you, just do what they do, only slightly better.
Yeah.
But if you're shooting for yourself, you don't really care what they think. And if they say they like it, that's nice, but you don't care about that either because you're doing what you want to do.
That's right.
And you know what? You have to be willing to accept the risks of your creativity and knowing that you may fail. I don't know of a single great person that I can think of who was creative that didn't have some success and some failures along the way.
Oh, well, you see musicians now, after they died, they found all this the work,
unpublished work,
unpublished work that nobody ever did anything with. Clearly, they did not believe it was good enough at the time. So in their eyes, that was a fail.
And then someone else comes along and said, hey, we got new albums we can sell.
Yeah.
And the artist would be rolling over in his or her grave thinking, no, I didn't want that out there. You're ruining my memory and my legacy. The last tip that I wanted to give was kind of to follow your imagination and help it grow. That's the hard part.
Yes.
What is your imagination? Where does it take you? And it's probably going to start off small, and then you have to get bolder with your imagination.
Yeah. You take some risks.
One of the photographs I remember is from Joe McNally. He said, this is what happens when you let my imagination loose. And it was kind of like a child's bedroom scene, and they were reading a book, and on the wall was this painting of a tree, and he had a model who had body paint on her, and it was kind of like a really creepy scene. It's like, this is what happens to your imagination when it takes life.
Yes.
And it was a wonderful photograph. And I thought, I didn't have that in my imagination at all.
But you know what? The other side of that is you looked at it and appreciated it as a work of art. There will be people who look at that photograph and go, oh my goodness, that is terrible, because they don't like maybe the subject, the way it's been put together, maybe the mood. So don't judge something and say just because you like it and you see other people saying that they like something that is a success without any critics. There is always some criticism to those great pieces of art.
I think true creativity is always divisive. There are people who love it. There are people who hate it. And there are people who say, nah, but you still do it because it's true to what you want to put out there. And if you put something out there that I think everyone loves, then you've garnered a lot of attention, but you haven't necessarily pushed the boundaries.
Yeah.
And is it worth it to you to push the boundaries? I think if you're looking for self-satisfaction, yes, it's worth it. And also, that's how you're going to get noticed. If you're trying to get attention from other people, be creative, do something, which is why we see like Hollywood actors and comedians do some really incredibly stupid things.
Yes.
Kathy Griffin comes to mind.
No such thing as bad publicity.
Well, in her case, there really was.
Yeah. But you know what? It gets attention. For some people, they don't mind that it's negative attention. It is very deliberately done to get attention. It's the same thing with photography or any form of art. The other thing to remember is that you don't have to break the rules and be creative, like consciously doing this with every single photo you take. This is just for the ones where you want to, let go of the rules. You want to make an impact. You want to do something, step outside of the boundaries.
All right. I've got an idea of something that steps outside the boundaries and breaks the rules.
What's that?
That movie Borat.
Oh, yeah. That's, I sat there and watched that thing with my jaw dropped, probably sitting on my knees the whole way through, kind of looking at William doing guppy moves with my mom.
And that movie was incredibly popular because he did things that were outside of social norms. And some people laughed, some people were reviled, but man, he got out there and he had the courage to do something unusual, and I think it was creative.
Well, there were plenty of moments where I wanted to get up, but you just couldn't stop watching because it was like, what is he going to do next?
And that was the attention that he was looking for. He's done other movies in the same kind of vein. I'm not saying that you need to go out there and put on a man thong, but
yeah, please don't do that.
And please don't take a picture and send to us. We don't really need to have that in our dreams. But
thank you.
What I'm saying is that your sense of creativity can take you in a number of directions, and only you can have what your creativity comes up with, and your imagination comes with it. How do you execute on your imagination? That will give you some technical challenges just in itself.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that is growth, and that's really how you learn to improve your creativity. And as you do that, I think you're probably also learning to improve your talent.
Yeah. Go out and break some rules. Make us proud.
Thank you so much for listening to the Photo Flunky Show. As I said, show notes are going to be available at williambeam.com/episode 122. Hey, if you're a Lightroom user and performance is not exactly what you want it to be, don't worry. We've got a book that'll help you out. It is called Lightroom Classic Performance Hacks, and you can get it at williambeam.com/LRHacks. I'll have that in the show notes for you in case you just can't spell that hacks. Please visit us at williambeam.com/iTunes, and you can subscribe to the show there. You can give us a rating, a review, tell us how we're doing. And of course, we are also on Google Play Music, Blueberry, and Stitcher Radio. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week.